Hello, I'm Brigantia, Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew, and welcome back to our series Pagan Problems. This week we're focusing on the theme of getting rid of excuses. There's always going to be obstacles in our spiritual lives, and it isn't hard to find reasons and explanations and excuses for why we can't/won't overcome it. And sometimes, and I would say a lot of the times, we are the authors of our own obstacles. We can set ourselves unrealistic goals, or we can fail to make a good plan that will help us achieve those goals, or we just don't have the stick-to-itiveness required to actually accomplish something. And then there are distractions. They are absolutely everywhere, and I suspect that many more of us are addicted to distractions than what we might realize, at least initially. And then our approaches to achieving our goals can be too rigid of an approach. In most cases, there's more than one way to get something done, but if we don't allow ourselves to see alternatives and different possibilities to achieve the same end result, sometimes that means that we're not going to do what we set out to do, and it's because we just closed off our options. Now, if we're going to get rid of excuses and actually enrich our spiritual lives, this will oftentimes means that we will need to let go of something else in our lives that is of lesser importance. The first question we can address is, what do we place value on and why? And is what we are prioritizing actually worthy of the value we've assigned it? The second question is, what can we afford to let go of? This might be a temporary setting aside of something, or it might mean letting go of something for a much longer period of time. But for most of us, we all have busy lives. We can't just take on something and add endlessly to our lives without putting something else down. So looking what we can let go of, maybe it's not as important to us anymore. I think that can be very helpful in this process. The third question is whether or not what we're pursuing is actually making us happier and better people. There should be practical benefits to our spiritual pursuits. It should be visible in our conduct and the way we present ourselves and how we interact with others. If we're not getting anything out of it, if it's not helping us, then it's time to try something else. It's time to reevaluate. It's time to think, what am I actually trying to achieve here? So to face all this, ruthless honesty is called for. We are never going to overcome obstacles or stop making excuses for why we're not progressing spiritually if we avoid taking an honest and dispassionate look at what we're doing and what we are not doing. Now, sometimes it can help if we ask ourselves, what would we think if we were just looking at ourselves and our lives and our goals from an outside perspective? What if we had another person who had the same goals and essentially was making the same choices as we did, but they weren't making progress, and then they asked us for an opinion about why they weren't successful and what might need to happen in order to change that? This process can be very, very difficult, not only because it's hard to see ourselves as others might see us, but it can also be quite emotional. It can make us realize that, what I give lip service to and what I actually do are quite separate things sometimes, and that can be difficult to handle. But if we face that and we take a step back and we try to be objective, it can reveal truths about ourselves that we need to face and realize, maybe I'm not prioritizing this because ultimately I don't think it actually is important, or maybe I'm not prioritizing this because it's not giving me what I need in my life at this moment. Now, our final step in this process is not to hide away in excuses, but this is going to necessitate making consistent efforts to change and not allowing ourselves to fall back into the old and the confining habits. Divorcing ourselves from the passivity of our culture is absolutely vital. Paganism, and witchcraft even more so, is about the doing. This is a frightening test for us to face, because accepting and embracing that something is actually required of us and that our actions are a testimony of what our true beliefs really are can be a bit terrifying. The rewards, of course, if we do this, is that we will have a rich and a very rewarding spirituality and an honest conscience, knowing that our beliefs and actions are in accord. But we're going to have to overcome some of these things, and it begins by not making excuses for ourselves and being willing to just call a spade, even if it's about aspects of ourselves that we may not be entirely happy with or entirely comfortable with. So that's my few thoughts on the subject. I'd be very curious to hear what you have to say. You can, of course, leave a comment below, Or you could come visit us at Blackbird's Brew. There's a link to join in the description box below. And of course, please subscribe to this channel, like the video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.